Hey, thanks for tuning into the Art of SBA Lending. Today on the podcast, we have Matthew McElveen. He is the president of GGL at Voyager Lending, and Voyager Lending is what his bank is branding their SBA division, and this is a trend that we're seeing more and more today. So Matthew came over here. He's building out a team. It's a new SBA division. It's a startup shop. They're in it under a year. And I'm seeing a lot of BDOs go out and do this type of model, right? So he is creating a division and they're branding it differently than the bank. Why are they doing that? Well, stay tuned to find out. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to talk to you about this whole voyage that you're on. See what I did there?
We'll play on words.
Tell me about the whole story, because Voyager Lending, like, how did this whole thing come about?
Voyager Lending, kind of came out of me joining Merchants and Marine Bank, a community bank located out of Pascagoula, Mississippi. Them, along with many other banks, are obviously looking to get into SBA lending, and they understand, the leadership team understands that you can't just dip your toes in. If you're going to start an SBA division, you have to go all in. And so me and a team of others transitioned over, and as the bank continues to grow, they've added a mortgage division that they've branded, and Voyager, being, the SBA division, the government guaranteed lending arm, and we could have just been another division under the bank. The bank kind of thought a little differently and wanted to structure it where Voyager was actually its own entity, that we operated as a division, a brand, specifically, providing SBA and USDA loans to small business owners. So we have our own branded website, that we're able to market. Obviously, Voyager and its own, the logo, its own branding. Right. So, we want to build a name in the SBA space, assisting those small business owners. Currently we're going to serve the Southeast, with a focus in the Southeast, but, as we continue to grow, the hope is to serve nationally.
Got it. Okay. Well, that's really cool, because I really like that approach. And I've seen it done before, but I feel like it's getting more popular. Mm-hmm. Let me see. Right now, if you look at like some of the most active SBA lenders, the one that comes to mind would be 44 Business Capital, because they're a division of Berkshire Bank. I also know John Handmaker had created several of these companies, like Q2, which was a division of another bank. So that's kind of, I've seen it done, but now I feel like it's becoming more and more popular. Do you think that this is the model now, where a BDO type of person creates a division just like this, different name, different branding, and then goes and sets up a shop at the bank? Is that the new model?
That's a great question. And, I think as our industry continues to evolve, and it is right in front of us, technology being one thing that it continues to, affect our industry. I think being able to market a brand solely focused on those small business owners, I actually had a small business owner reach out to me, and they came to me because, oh, you focus on SBA lending, you're the expert in that space, instead of, hey, I'm going to go talk to my bank, and the banker may or may not even know about SBA. And so I think it adds a little level of comfort, to the potential clients, or clients that they are working with somebody that is an expert on the subject matter, because a lot of the times that business owner has never been through the SBA process, and sometimes through the lending process at all, right? So we really, are educating them throughout the entire process. So that's a great question. I'm sure we'll see more of it, especially with the popularity, now that SBA has had, especially, since COVID, right? SBA really came to the forefront.
Right. A lot of banks looking to get into it. So I understand why a bank would want to get into it. There's a lot of reasons why they want to get into it. And if you're going to do it right, you got to bring in a whole team. You have a dedicated resources division, etc. But I want to hear from your standpoint why you thought it was a good idea. Your background's interesting. You have been, I think, a credit analyst, right? You've been a BDO.
Yep.
And now you're the president of a government guaranteed division. How did that happen?
I guess I'm crazy. Came through, as a credit analyst on the credit side, and really delved into, SOP and policies and really, from nuts to bolts, how credits, should look as they're coming through, and then flipping over back, to the sales side of things and becoming a BDO and in a new market and growing in that market. And, I'm lucky that I have the opportunity to, potential opportunity to come over to Merchant Marine Bank and launch Voyager Lending. And, I grew up in a very small town. I always used to say I'm community bank minded, and I've kind of found my way back to a community bank. And, just because we are a community bank, that doesn't mean we can't play like big banks, and so with the SBA product and what Voyager can do, we have big plans. And so it's very exciting, to have the executive leadership really believe in what we're doing and the passion behind it. Like I said, I grew up in a rural area. My father benefited from USDA lending. And, my other side of the families, we're all in banking. And so that's kind of where the banking background came into play, and kind of, from college going into things, a lot of people say, hey, I don't really know what I want to do, but I had a passion on, helping small businesses and small business owners. And so, eventually found my way into government guaranteed lending. It was funny. My college roommate actually, dove in before I did. And, he pointed out, like, you really need to check this out. It's kind of nichey. And so, and that's how I wound up in SBA, really. And so,
who's your college roommate?
So I'll give a shout out. Tyler Griffin with Synovus Bank.
What?
Yeah.
Tyler was your roommate?
Yeah, Tyler was my roommate. You know Tyler?
I know everyone.
You do know everyone, Ray. I know. And everybody knows you.
So listen, was it a hard decision leaving the best job in the world, which is being a BDO, and going into basically management? I mean, was that a hard choice?
It was one, because obviously, you're leaving the day to day, and obviously there's a pipeline there on the table too. And, to take a step back and to go in the management side of things, really, really has been a great opportunity and opened my eyes from, top down of how, things can operate. And, obviously there's people that will be a diehard BDO and maintain that throughout their whole lifetime, right? But being a BDO and moving through that, really think I had a passion to be a leader, and I think, as far as a younger generation of SBA, you as well, Ray, there's not a whole lot of us out there, and the banking industry as well. So I saw it as an opportunity for me, and to move to that next step. Having the background, I got a great team with even more knowledge and tenure than me, and so surrounding myself with those people that are just gonna take our teams to the next level. That's what we're looking for, and so as we continue to grow and expand, we're always going to be looking to source great talent, and that's another topic as well. We don't even have to dive down that rabbit hole, but trying to source and find great talent in the SBA field it's very competitive, as you know, Ray.
Well, that's why those folks at Shatterbox are hard at work, and I would recommend you reaching out.
That's right. Yes, Shatterbox, definitely check it out if y'all haven't heard about it.
So when you're in the talks with the bank, like, one of the things that I've heard of over the years is, like, a bank will want to get into SBA loans until they actually see what an SBA loan looks like. And then they're like, we're not approving that. Like, what was your discussion with the types of deals that are SBA deals, the hair, and how'd you gain comfort that the bank was willing to play in that, landscape?
Well, no, that's definitely a great question, and so that really goes back to the leadership team. I don't think that I would have made the move without getting comfortable not only with the leadership team and their expertise themselves, but also culture, right? That plays into it. But you know, going back to that, the leadership team's understanding of SBA, having history of being a part of an institution that has done SBA lending, for the bank, it's not your typical community bank that you would think about. Our leadership team, probably average age is around 40. In the C-suite, and so there's some younger entrepreneurs and really envision taking this bank to the next level. And so with that, seeing fallout from not being able to assist certain clientele, they knew there was that gap. And so SBA lending, bringing that piece to the table with that government guarantee, can help get them comfortable in doing transactions that may be a little light on collateral, or hey, maybe they don't quite meet that LTV requirement that the bank's looking for, or need a longer maturity. So, they definitely understand that there's some hair on some deals, and it's really working with them to help define that credit box. Because SBA lending, you can do a whole lot with SBA lending, but certain banks may say, hey, I'm only going to play here. And so working to define that credit box and make sure that everybody's on the same page as we work through it. And so we've had a lot of success so far. And of course, there will I'm sure be that opportunity when something comes across the table that it's like, wait a second, right? And it's probably the same that you've dealt with, and really working to define and learning the credit box and where to play.
Well, you're building the SBA credit box,
Oh, correct.
right? Because they didn't have an SBA division before you got there, right?
Correct.
So you're building. So how do loans get approved currently? Is it a committee that is folks from the bank?
Correct. So there is a committee that things are rolling through. That way there's checks and balances, and so having that understanding, and really we actually had meetings to work to say, hey, let's define this, because SBA can do X, but let's define on where our appetite is, and of course where the bank's risk appetite is when it comes to doing certain transactions. I don't think you hear a whole lot of banks jumping up and down saying, hey, all I want to do is fully unsecured deals, but really defining what that looks like for the institution. And I think if you put 10 banks in a room, and ask that same question, I'm sure you'd get a whole lot of different answers on kind of what their credit appetite is. And I think that depends on location and region, and if they are a national lender and what they're looking to do and how large the institution is. But it's been a great process, and having that leadership support and defining it. If the leadership team did not understand SBA lending to the level that they did, I probably wouldn't be here today. Having that support and understanding has made us come a long way in a short amount of time.
Yeah, because it's pretty competitive out there in the SBA space, especially with these premiums and whatnot, which a lot of folks feel is like crack to them, and so they're always looking for ways to boost volume. And you have these big production shops. I mean, some of these shops are doing just crazy volume. And so I've always felt I don't know, you tell me if you feel this, but I felt like lenders kept getting more and more aggressive to try to gain more volume, whether it's LTVs. I mean, you're doing acquisitions now at 90%. You can have 5% injection with the standby seller note. I remember when it used to be 75% max on those large goodwill, 500,000 goodwill deals. You have 100% financing for real estate. You have projection-based lending. Has the marketplace just gotten like crazy competitive?
I really think so. And I know we're all kind of sitting on the edge of our seats to wait and see what what SBA rolls out, and there's a lot of talk of uh, I don't want to use the term deregulating, but kind of new proposals of how we can get more money into the hands of small business owners that need it. And the way that I look at it is, that's great and that's the case, and we're promoting small business, but there also goes back to prudent lending, right? We can't be doing crazy things, because what's going to happen when SBA knocks on your door in a couple of years and you start having loans go sideways? That you probably should have been a little more prudent on in certain types of transactions. Not to say that all of it's bad. I think it's wonderful that you could do 100% on expansions and things, and that you can acquire businesses with certain amounts of goodwill now. And it really kind of goes back to the American dream and what the SBA is promoting. But really, going back to that prudent lending piece, I think the market is definitely competitive. And I don't even want to mention fintech. That's a whole different topic in our world. But
It's a hot topic right now.
yeah.
All right, so let me bring it down, because this is interesting. So you were a BDO at a bank.
Mm-hmm.
You obviously you had this idea that you wanted to do something else. Do you start talking to a consultant, recruiter type person who's working with this bank? Is that how you get connected?
I actually attended the Graduate School of Banking at LSU with the CFO of the bank. And so that's how we initially got connected. And,
Oh, wow.
it really was kind of a round table, you know, fireside dinner and drinks, and you start having conversations of, hey, we have this need, and well, hey, I could fill that need, and let's talk about it deeper. And so you really, in certain situations, I'm sure it works out where, hey, you work with a consultant and all these things, and this is how things happen. But really, this was kind of came out of friendship,
Wow, that's
and
crazy.
really, had the opportunity. Now, I'm not saying it was just easy. It was really, having to build out a business plan and put projections
Sure.
together of what this could become, and really walk them through and understand, this is our proposal and how SBA lending can work. Like you said, you have those shops that, they're going to drive and work off a premium, and be solely premium based. But then you have other shops where, hey, they even portfolio some deals, and so there's different models, and I'm not saying one's better than the other, but ultimately just providing that, and making them understand. And so, but yeah,
What's your model?
we're premium based model, especially being a smaller community bank. They see value in being able to create that instant liquidity for the institution. Obviously, we all know selling in the secondary market, being able to, also get that off the balance sheet, is helpful as well. So, that's the model we've taken on. But I assume y'all are the same, Ray?
Yeah, I mean that's the most common model.
Yeah.
Now you've been ramping up quite fast. I've noticed. You guys you have a team built out. I think you hired what do you have a BDO? How many BDOs do you have right now?
We have two BDOs, well, three right now, and then we have our operations team built out, and we are ramping. But I will say it's all about controlled growth. We're not going to be the shop that goes out and all of a sudden, there's 20 lenders all over the place. I think, building the model and improving the model, and having that controlled growth over time, and having the understanding from upper management, this is what it looks like. It's a long-term play here, and that was communicated day one, that, hey, we want to build something for the future, and we don't want to, just throw things together very quickly, and build it short term. We were able to lay the foundation of what this division is going to look like, and that was the most fun part, that of this whole process. Working through, different LOS systems of technology, and what can we leverage, and how can we make things more efficient, and what's the biggest thing that really creates roadblocks, and let's tackle those and figure out ways around it. So it's been an amazing process to work through things.
Did you work with your like your operations director and your credit chief credit person at the previous shop?
Yeah, so we and that's another great thing. We've been together for about 8 years. We've known each other through different SBA worlds, and
Oh wow.
we all know our space is a small one in the scheme of things. Everybody knows everybody. We joke, just like you earlier, Ray. But no, 100%. I could not have done this without them either, and their expertise.
What's your director of credit's name?
Caitlyn Summers.
She won. I think she owes us a call, but she won headphones from our last conference.
Really? Down at GLQC?
I have her business card and the headphones in my office, and I have to get those to her basically.
Ray, I am not surprised because she wins everything. Even she won a Yeti cooler at GLQC that I put her business card in the raffle for her.
No.
Technically, it should be mine.
Hey,
yeah.
She's cleaning up.
She was cleaning house. It was unbelievable. Even won one of the Super Bowl raffles down there.
Wow. That's lucky. You're going to need that type of luck.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Do you still originate deals?
So at the moment, yeah. So, I originate some. Now, obviously, as we continue to grow, I'll step back. And that's why we have those checks and balances when it comes to the approval process. Ultimately, I'm not approving, deals going through. As I take a step back, we'll eventually probably hire, a sales manager once we get to a certain level. And I won't be producing. Obviously, I'll be doing more managing. But right now it's manageable. And, it's sometimes the two-headed monster of, having to play both roles. But, still assisting clients, through the process, and really got a great team and support staff where I still have the ability to do so.
Do they have PLP yet?
So at the moment we don't, but we're obviously trending very closely to that, and that's a process that SBA changed. Obviously through COVID as well, they increased it from, instead of just doing 5 loans, you had to go up to 10, fully funded, to be able to apply to the PLP. And I completely understand why they did so. And I think they were, again, to those banks that just want to dip their toes in, they were going to make sure they were all in and ready. But I've actually worked with a startup startup group before, so I've been through the application process for the PLP and that side of it. So it doesn't scare me at all of getting there.
Let's speak broadly. Like, what do you think draws a BDO who has the best job in the world, who gets to basically build their own business, get unlimited commission?
I think you tapped on it a little bit, and so as a BDO, you really are building your own business, right? And controlling your own destiny, and the sky's the limit. So I think you can get to a certain point where you always want to be hungry, and now here's this other opportunity to where not only can I, well, literally, run my own business and manage this. And so I think we all, BDOs, figure things out through their lifetime as a lender, how to do things, how not to do things. And you can take that and implement that and really grow. And in my instance, grow a brand around it, and others, grow their bank around it. And with SBA lending, where it is right now, I know for a fact, you're going to see more of it. SBA is going to come back to the forefront, somewhat recessionary proof. Lenders are tightening credit boxes. I read today that, lending's up 11%, since December. And so I think you're going to see, SBA come to the forefront again through this rough patch.
Yeah, I think, I call it the curse of the top performing BDO. We sent an email, and it's my weekly sales ammo, which, by the way, if you aren't subscribed to Sales Ammo, it's a tip that goes to your inbox every Monday morning, a sales tip. And it's very short, so I'll just read it. But you've finally become a top producing BDO, and you can just sit there year after year crushing it. but you get hit with the curse of the top producing BDO, which is, I think I could do this better. And you get the itch to start your own shop. And what I put in the email as to why this was so common is because the traits that make you a good BDO are the same ones that are creating that itch, which is you have this insatiable thirst for more. You're constantly making yourself uncomfortable so that you can grow. So you don't like to be comfortable. You like to be uncomfortable so you can grow. And then, of course, borderline delusional self-confidence, which we all have.
Wow, wow. Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. So I understand, and that's why I'm curious about it. So you set up this, is it a separate entity? Like, is Voyager Lending like an LLC, or is it just a...
No, it is a division of the bank, and there is a process to have to go through and get approval, with SBA in order to set it up that way. But it is, not a separate entity. We are bank employees. We're paid by the bank. It's very clear, that ultimately this is just marketing.
When it comes to like the differentiator, right now there's so many banks that do SBA. There's a couple hundred of them that are actively trying to do SBA. And obviously there's like 1,600 that have made at least one. But most of those are little onesies and twosies, and that's really not what we're talking about. But in let's say the top, you're probably going to want to play in that top 100 space. And what do you think your differentiator is going to be in the market?
No, that's a great question. And, first building the model and getting the vision out, right? In order to get there, how do we get to that top 100? And then really, then you start looking at, what defines us, what separates us from our competition. And, for right now, as we launch, the separator is going to be, hey, we're experts in our space. We know SBA lending. We know it better than the other guys. We can get you through the process quicker. And I know that, that seems so simple. But, I talk to a lot of people that just have horrible experiences. And I'll always ask and say, well, who'd you try to go with, or what, what was the situation? And so really, being able to be, Voyager Lending, being able to call on them and know that what you're getting is what you get, and building that model as we continue to grow. As we ramp up, we're going to have multi-state BDOs, throughout the Southeast. And then, again, the vision, the sky's the limit, right? So it's really, always updating your goals, always updating, and you talk about the curse of the BDO. It's, that constant hungry, right? And so, we've laid out our path to get there, and it's going to be a very exciting few years. It really is.
How is technology going to play into your shop?
It's going to play a lot. Look at the GLQC conference that we went to. Look at the technology that's out there. People are fiending to get into our space, because they understand, hey, I can try to sell a product based off of, you selling a loan and getting a premium off of that. I can justify the means of you wanting to, use my product, right? It's a perfect sales pitch. And, so now, there's so many LOS systems. There's people, and products that are providing data, and scored products, that are doing small SBA scored loans very quickly, and getting them through the process. So as far as in our shop, utilizing an LOS system, that will allow you to nuts to bolts. And, well, I say nuts to bolts. It's not necessarily nuts to bolts. I don't think any LOS system out there, provides the full closing and servicing piece. If it is out there, I would love to talk to somebody, show it to me. But, we reviewed, 7 different systems, and, really picking the right one is very important, especially on the front end. Don't ask me, I'm not sharing who we went with. But, picking the right one, and making sure it's going to fit our model, and fit with, how we grow. But I think, our industry is going, technology's coming in. You better accept it or you're going to be left behind.
100%. And I'm not going to shout at any firms that aren't, unless they're giving me sponsorship dollars. So don't worry. Do you think you're going to miss talking to like borrowers and referral sources?
My goal is to really never stop. I think being able to still be the face, and actually be the face of this, and work with them, and whether it's passing it off to one of our lenders and kind of having them walk them through the process, but me still being the face. I'd love to continue that as much as possible, and especially with the referral sources. Always never burning those bridges, and
Right. Because you built this up over years, and now it's like you're going to be
exactly.
pawning them off on your team members at a certain point. And they're what if they're like, the reason they do business with you is because of you. Like it might not click with everyone else. That's why some referral sources go with different people. Once you get to a certain point and you have a full sales team and a sales manager, and people come to you, you're gonna say, hey, talk to my guy, talk to this person, right? You're not gonna continue doing deals.
Well, in my mind, there's always going to be that point, and when that is, not going to put a date on it, but we are going to have, everybody calls them differently, but SBA support specialist that'll be there, from the documentation collecting to be able to support me as well. And so, what that looks like is, could look like is, I'm still the face of it, I'm still working it, but I'm having somebody on the back end, really kind of getting the file prepped and moving things through. And
Interesting.
I know you see that at some banks that build it out that way, but it still would allow me to be the face while.
I gotcha. So,
Mhm.
and the reason you want to do that is because, I never want to. It's like hard to give up production.
Right.
It's
It is.
very hard, and
Just like it's the, like you said, the premiums, the crack for the banks, for a high performing BDO, it's what gets us excited. It's what wakes us up in the morning, right?
I feel like I have seen it done too. I feel like I want to say. I just am throwing names out there at
Sure.
banks. So if I'm getting things wrong, people can roast me in the comments. But Grasshopper Bank, that's ran by Stephanie, and Shane Pearson is like the national sales manager, and she's like the head of SBA. And I'm pretty sure they both still originate their own deals, and they only have like one or two BDOs, and they do a lot of volume, and they're definitely top 100, but I think probably more like top 50 lender now. And they've done this at multiple shops now. So I guess there is a way to do it, which would be ideal.
Yeah, I think it's really having that support staff in place, and definitely having the model to do it. So, um, I would love to continue doing it as long as I can, because, like you said, there's always going to be a previous client or a referral source that's, because what you become ultimately is you become the SBA guy, right? Whenever they hear that word, they give you a phone call, and so I want to continue to be that person for my network, of borrowers and
Okay.
COIs. So.
All right. So just to be clear, everyone, Matthew is still in the market taking loan requests, so you can still call him. But at a certain point, he's just going to be a pretty face in the front, and he's going to have his minions working in the back.
No, always be closing,
No, I hear you. Part of leading this division is folks are going to be looking at you. And we're headed into some tricky waters that we're navigating through. And I just wanted to hear kind of from you what you think might be your biggest challenge in the first year in what you're trying to do here, build out this division.
Wow.
Is it staffing? Is it PLP? Is it, I'm thinking it's either staffing, hiring people in this market, PLP, or credit. There's a lot to choose from, actually.
I know I was about to say the loaded question right here at the end for the hoorah moment.
For the clicks.
Right. If I had to pinpoint one thing, and kind of going back through, and I'm very confident about building out the credit box, and we'll have already defined that. But I feel very confident in getting the PLP. That's something that we've done previously and proven. But as far as staffing goes, I think not necessarily. I know it's very competitive in the underwriting and operations world, but as we all know, finding BDOs that fit the script for what you're looking for can be difficult. And you know and there's many types of BDOs, right? I mean, you got BDOs that come from a credit background. You got BDOs that can do 30 plus million or 60 million, that are go getters and boom boom boom. And so finding talent and sourcing that talent, it's going to be interesting to see. There was a stat, I forget, that the salary ranges in the SBA world were like up 30%, from years back. And what does that look like going in, to this, where SBA is coming back to the forefront, more banks are getting into it. So I think Shatterbox has a great thing going on with what they're planning on doing, and kind of developing that new level of talent that for the SBA world. So
Yeah. So do you, what are you going to look for then for a BDO? Like what are your kind of criteria that you're looking for?
Obviously, having SBA background and knowledge is very important. But there's different models. I even watch your podcast, other podcasts of, hey, I'm just going to hire people straight out of college and I'm going to groom them and make them into SBA lenders, right? But I think initially, as we get off our feet, it's going to be more experienced lenders at the moment. But obviously, we have a model too where we're going to implement to bring in, whether you call it a junior BDO, but start building our own talent pool.
That makes sense. But what about in terms of an established BDO? Are you talking about someone who's doing 10, 15 million, someone who's doing 30, 35 million? Or someone bigger? And also, are you looking for BDOs that, how are you assessing, like, are they good culture fits?
That is huge, Ray. And you hit it right on the head when you say the word culture. Our bank is huge into the culture of an individual and also the culture of the bank as a whole, that they're coming into. And we look to bring on individuals that are going to be a great fit. Being a startup division and obviously wearing different hats, but I think as we get off the ground, finding BDOs that probably had some credit background, or at least credit background in their lifetime, to where they can put together spreads, build out loan packages, because right now, once we get off the ground, you're not going to have that deep back end support that we will, once we continue to grow. So now, that may look different a couple of years down the road to where we have more support staff and we can, start tapping into that higher realm of BDOs that needs that little extra support, but they're doing 30 plus million, right? So I think finding someone doing between 10 and 20 would be a great great range. And obviously, as we continue to grow, grooming those new junior people, and getting them to a certain level, and that's one thing I strive for too, is being able to groom individuals and help them make more money, right? Hey, here's SBA, and it's a wonderful opportunity for you to grow as an individual and really help small businesses along the way. So.
Yeah, I think you're doing a lot of things right, honestly, and I think you're going to be successful in this voyage. And I do have one. I just want to keep you from one more thing. Are you guys together in person in the office, you and your team, or are you all virtual?
Great question. So as of right now, we are virtual, and as you probably learn, in the SBA space, as far as sourcing talent and finding great talent, sometimes that takes you around a little bit. And so, our bank's headquartered in Pascagoula, Mississippi, and I'm sitting in Atlanta right now. But with technology, again, I can kind of be anywhere, right? And so with our market, everything's either a flight or a day's drive away. And so, if I need to be in front of anyone, I can be there. And as we continue to hire, they'll be remote too. But I've been in a remote environment previously, and as a BDO, um, you know, it never really bothered me.
Yeah, I agree. And everyone's remote now. Our company's remote. But how do you think about building a culture within the department when everyone's remote? That to me is the hard part that I feel like no one's quite figured out. So what are you thinking about in terms of building a culture within your division, but in a remote setting where you can't just go over to their office and look over their shoulder and say, what you working on?
No, and that's a great point. And, that's something that we're going to have to tackle as we continue to grow. And, being able to communicate, and I'm not talking about, having meetings just to have meetings, you read a book, Death by Meeting, great book. But, being able to, hop on a Zoom call and be in front of them. And that's from, my level of being high touch as a leader, making sure that they have everything they need and constantly being in touch with them. And not from an overbearing standpoint, but just from a how can I help you standpoint. And I think there's a fine line between those two. You've heard of certain instances where, if in a remote environment, they have these leaders where, they call them absent leaders where, hey, I can never get in touch with them. I don't know what's going on. I have no guidance. And that's the complete opposite environment that I'm trying to create.
What about getting together every once in a while?
No, definitely. Doing quarterly, get-togethers, and going to try to do an annual, and we're figuring this out, but doing an annual, get together that would kind of be over a weekend, and making sure that we have a lot of face-to-face time and everybody gets to know each other, and never want it to be like when you get together for the first time and they're like, I didn't even know this is what you look like your voice doesn't match what you look like. So
you're this tall or this short?
You're this tall. I get that all the time. People say I look very tall on camera, but only racking in about 5'8" here on a great day. So
Listen, I've kept you far too long, but I'm really excited for what you're doing, and I appreciate you stopping by.
Awesome. No, same here, Ray. I greatly appreciate you having me on board, and it's fun to talk about what we're doing. We're excited about it. And anyone's life in SBA, it's never easy. But having fun while you're doing it is what we're all about. So, no, thanks again for having me on.
I 100% agree. You got to have fun when you're doing it. That's a big thing, especially for me lately. So I appreciate it. All right, that's it for this week. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode of The Art of SBA Lending. And if you have any feedback or suggestions, email me at ray@artofsba.com. Until next time, ta-ta.